Hi, I'm Scott Morris, and this series of lessons comes from my Classical Guitar Complete Volume 2. So if you've got Volume 1, Volume 2 is now out and about. The first lesson that I want to do here is something based on Chapter 1 of the book, which is really just sort of following through on the whole idea of a pattern-based approach to learning the guitar. And in this little lesson, we're going to talk about choosing your left-hand fingerings based on those different scale patterns. So I've got 5 of them presented in the book. So I wrote this little piece called Where You At? And I'm going to play it in first position, then I'm going to move it up the neck a little bit, and kind of talk about not just the simple stuff like, well, if you take this piece and play it in a different pattern, you're going to be playing it in a different position on the neck. But more importantly, I think, why? Why would you want to move it up the fretboard? What's different? What's in it for me for all that effort? So we're going to talk about some greater expressive and artistic possibilities that you will have if you can sort of break out of first position there and comfortably move up the fretboard. So let me play the piece in first position one time, then I'll explain the pattern that it's based on. What the qualities are in first position, and then I'll move it up the fretboard a little bit and we'll just do a little compare back and forth and see what the differences are. So here's Where You At in first position. So just a couple quick little things. First, before you choose the pattern you're going to be basing the left-hand fingerings on, you need to identify what key you're in. And this one here, no sharps, no flats, for the most part. A minor is the key. So if you're familiar with major, minor, relative keys, you'll know that you could take the patterns for C major, which are presented in Chapter 1, and also apply those to A minor for the most part. So this is pattern 1 in C major or A minor, and just take that one little A, which is up on the 5th fret here. That's the only other one we need to get. That's not down here in that first position. So a couple qualities to point out. When you're playing down here in first position, the first is you get a lot of clarity because you're playing on a very bright part of the fretboard here. The notes tend to be much brighter, so if you're playing here, it's going to be much brighter than, say if you're playing up here. The notes get warmer as you move up the fretboard. That has to do with getting closer toward the center of the string. So the closer you get to that halfway point, between here and here, which is at the 12th fret, the warmer the sound is going to be. So you're playing down here by the nut. It's going to be a brighter sound. That can be really good because it gives you a lot of clarity. You can hear what's happening with the different voices and things like that. So there are a lot of good things you get from that, but you don't want that to be your only option. I think a lot of guitar players, this is the only place they're comfortable learning music. So if they can play it here, they're going to every single time. What I'd like you to be able to do is to have the option of moving things that you could maybe play in first position out of first position if it makes sense to do musically. But just a couple little things to point out here. Yes, it is nice and bright, but one of the downsides is it's very hard to play with vibrato in first position. There are ways to do it. You can almost do like a little rock vibrato, things like that. But nothing beats moving up the fretboard and getting that nice big, beautiful, sound. So moving up the fretboard is good for that. Some other things, come up when you move it around. You get more possibilities for things like cross stringing, some different sonorities, all of that. So first position, that's usually the first choice. But let's see what happens when we move it up a little bit here. So A minor, C major, A minor. So pattern 1. Just move up now to pattern 2. So it's mostly in second position. Move into third position here. And that's our little pattern there. So I'm going to play it now using pattern 2 in second and third position. It's not going to be too dramatically different because we're still pretty close to that first position, but there'll be some things that are clearly different. I'll point those out, and then hopefully you get the idea of this whole thing. So there you have it in second position, a little bit of third position, using pattern 2. And again, the tone quality is not too dramatically different because you're still, down here in the lower frets. But there are a couple things that are, definitely different here. One, closing that E. When I say closed, means not an open string. So rather than that right there. It definitely put a little bit of vibrato here, a lot easier than down here in first position. So playing say like C on the 5th fret, different sound, warmer. Also you get a lot more vibrato there. So you get a different sound. You get to add more vibrato. It'll be more effective. And I mentioned cross stringings earlier, so here's one of the spots where you can really get a feel for what I'm talking about. Originally, measure 5 here. That little bit right there, that little bass line back and forth between A and G, single string. It's a lot different when you play, you cross string that, so those notes, they ring together there, creates, sort of a new harmonic sonority, which is, at least to my ear, really nice. And that's just one little spot. There are many others that come up, and obviously with more complicated pieces, longer pieces, with more things going on, you can see how just having even a couple more options, moving the left hand around, trying it in different positions, can really change the interpretation of a piece. So moral of the story is, don't always go for your first fingering. Don't always go for where it's comfortable to play. Don't always go for first position. And I think you'll find more variety in your interpretations as a result of that. And just so you know, in chapter 1 of the book, there are actually 5 versions of this piece. I mean, they all, same notes, same rhythms, same dynamics, things like that. But it's fingered 1 time in first position using pattern 1, which I played, and then again using pattern 2 in 2nd and 3rd position, and then again in 5th position using pattern 3, 7th position using pattern 4, and then 5th pattern up in 8th, 9th, and 10th, kind of moves around that one pattern. So you can really get a feel for how dramatically it changes as you move it up. So that's that. Well, I hope you got something out of this, and I'll see you soon.